Hi guys, I have got a fun little page in my Jack Life Crafted album today. I headed up to Christchurch to visit Jack for the day a couple of weeks ago now, and we had just the best time. That little buddy, I miss him so much every day, so I'm taking every opportunity that I can to go and see him. These are a series of photos that we took just while my sister was getting changed and Jack was on the bed just chilling, and we had a bit of a bounce with him and he was so happy and so joyful. It was just so cute. Look at this little face. I mean, if only we could all feel that sort of joy every day. He is just the most precious little thing. And so I definitely wanted to create a whole spread in my album with these photos. So I printed one 4x6, a vertical 4x6, and I'm going to add that into the page protector that has the little slot at the bottom for journaling, but I'm not going to use that as a journaling spot necessarily. I've also got one of the two 3x4 page protectors for the left hand side, and so I've got one 3x4 photo and I have one littler photo that fit perfectly into one of the 3x4 cards from the Life Crafted kit this month. And I'm just going to start by using the This Is Life stamp set from this month's release, and I've chosen 3 of the little words that are in a similar outliney kind of font there, and I'm going to create my own pattern paper for the bottom of my 4x6 photo. So I've just taken all 3 of the stamps and lined them up on my block because I'm totally cheating and don't want to do it one at a time. And I'm using a kind of tealy coloured ink. I did pick out an ink that was going to blend in with my photos, but also with the card that I've already chosen for the left hand side, which has a teal, a limey coloured green and a yellow on it. So I've chosen the teal because that's my favourite. And you can see how quick it is to create a repeat pattern when you've got multiple stamps on a block like that. So I only need a little piece for the bottom slot in that page protector, so it doesn't take me very much time at all. I've only done 3 lines there. And while I've got this scrap cardboard out, I'm going to stamp a couple of the little label stamps from the same stamp set. This time I stamped the first one in teal, and I decided to go for a yellow instead, just to add a little bit more brightness and pull in some of those colours from that card on the left hand side. I've just stamped 3. I don't know if I'll need 3, but I figured while I've got the card and the stamp out, I might as well stamp a few just to make sure that I don't need extras at the end. And it also allows for any sort of mistakes to have a spare one there. So I've just trimmed down that stamped repeat pattern, and I'm just going to slot that into the page protector, and that's really all I'm going to do to it. It's totally simple. And then I'm just going to trim out these label stamps by hand, which is really, really easy. You could use a paper trimmer if you wanted to be a little bit more precise, but I was just being a little bit quick and easy with this. Now this label stamp has kind of a notch taken out of it, and I find the easiest way to trim out something like that, same with printables that have that little notch design in it, rather than use your scissors, is to use a single hole punch. Now I've got a couple of single hole punches. That one was a little bit too big, so I went and grabbed a smaller one. It helps if you can see where you're punching, and then you just line up the hole punch and punch it out. But it does add just that tiny little touch that makes it look like, well, I'm going to say a real label. Of course it's a real label, but it just gives it that little bit extra rather than leaving the square edges, and it's a bit more precise than using your scissors to try to cut out such a tiny little hole. So now I've got the basics for my layout all done. I'm sort of just going to place things where I think they're going to go, and you can see I'm only going to end up using 2 of those labels, so that the third one's going to be a spear, but all I've got to do is stick down my photo there, and then I'm going to use that same stamp set to add a couple of stamps to the labels before I adhere them to the photo. Now for this one here, I was deciding whether to combine a couple of different stamps or not, and actually I end up grabbing the stamp set from the Life Crafted kit to stamp the photo, stamp the label, sorry, for the photo on the left hand side. Now for the sentiments that I'm stamping, I'm going to stamp them just in a Tuxedo black from Memento, and I didn't get the stamping very straight the first time. I had only intended to stamp the sentiment once, but as you can see, the main stamp was not straight at all. So to make that look purposeful, I just off stamp that a couple more times. It just lightens it up, but it makes it look like the whole thing is on purpose. So down here on the left hand label, this was where I wondered whether I could combine a couple of stamps, and because I had that third label, the spear label there sitting there, I figured I would go ahead and experiment with it anyway. I didn't love the look of it, so that's why I was happy to have the spear, because in the end I'm just going to pick one of the stamps on the stamp set that is basically already combined for you. This one says yes please, stamp that onto the label, and then I can stick that onto the photo as well. Now I love a simple layout, I really do, but this one I want to add just a tiny touch more embellishment too, so I'm going to use these enamel shapes, and I'm going to use just the green ones. It's not my favorite sort of color here for me, but it works really nicely with the photos. So I'm adding the lime green and the darker green dots to my spread just in 3 little clusters. So I've got a couple that I've added to the pattern paper that I created down the bottom, and then I'm adding another little cluster of dots to the top label, and then the third one is going to be on the left hand side. But having them spread around the spread like that just helps to draw your eye through both sides of the pages and helps to make both sides of the spread cohesive. Now the last thing I'm going to do here is add in my date stamp. I don't always date all of these spreads, but this one was a specific day, so I really did want to get the date on there. And I just feel like the spread needs something else, but I couldn't see anything in the kit that I wanted to use, so I'm going to go ahead and take you over to the computer and cut out a cut file on my silhouette. So I've just opened a new file in the Silhouette Studio software, and I've set my page size to 6x8 since that is the size of the pattern paper that I'm going to be using. And what I'm going to do is drag in the "This is what life looks like" PNG file, which is very, very tiny. I'm going to enlarge that a little bit, I think. Just holding down the shift key to make sure that it stays the right proportions, and then I just want this side here of the cut file, so I'm going to use my trace tool, select the area over that, and then just hit trace. So we can delete the PNG file, which leaves me with this cut file here. I don't want the border that's on this, I just want the text from the inside. So I'm going to drag out a rectangle, hopefully somewhat similar to the size that I need it to be. And then I am going to zoom in just so I can make sure that it is actually placed. I don't want it, I need to make sure that it's just slightly inside the existing line, because I don't want any of those lines to sort of accidentally cut, and it will make my cut file look a bit funny. So I'm just making sure that all the way around the edge, the rectangle that I've drawn out is just slightly inside the original cut file line, especially around here in the corners. I think probably because I enlarged it before I traced it, it has made some of those lines a little bit rounded. So once I've done that, everything looks good. I can just zoom back out. I'm gonna just drag over both of those, select both of those, and then go to my modify palette here. And I think the one that I want, we'll find out, is intersect. There we go. And that deletes everything that is outside the original not the original cut file, the rectangle that I drew. So everything that was outside of that, which was the border, the outline of the original cut file, is going to disappear. So the only issue that I have now with this cut file is that I've got one piece down the bottom and I've got two pieces up the top, so they aren't actually joined onto my cut file. So I'm just going to modify that slightly so that everything cuts as one piece. The first thing I want to do is just grab this top piece here, and I'm just going to drag it down just until it sort of touches this bottom piece here. I'm going to select both of those and I want to weld them together. And then the last thing I have to add on here is I'm going to draw out another circle that's a similar size to the piece at the top, and just move it down so it's just sitting on this. And I'm also querying whether I'm going to do that now. It's going to change how the eye looks. So I think I'm just going to get rid of the dot altogether. So it will go, this is what life looks like, and everything looks fine. So I can go ahead and group that, and I might make this a smidgen taller. Just so that it's going to cut inside my paper, will fit inside my pocket, and I can go ahead and send that through the silhouette. And so I know it looks like I've cut this backwards, but I've actually reversed the cut file for a reason. I wanted the printed side of the paper to be on the back of the cut file, because this insert is going to go in between my two pages, and I want the page that is facing upright when you first open the spread to be white. So the coloured paper would have got a little bit lost on top of the larger photo, so that's why I flipped it over, and the white side, so the back side of the paper, is actually the right side of the cut file, if you get what I'm saying. Now the hardest part in all of this is trying to slip this cut file into the insert, and once I finally get it in there, there's probably very little chance that it's going to come out again. You can see how I have to tussle to get the thing in there, and because it's been on the silhouette mat, they are the cut files can be a little bit tacky afterwards, so the chances of that ever coming out of the insert are probably pretty slim. But I just stick a couple of little tiny attacher staples straight through the page protector and the cut file, and that will keep that sucker in there for good. And that is this spread in my Life Crafted album all done. I really love how this turned out. The cut file is totally perfect for these photos. And that stamp set, it just couldn't express the joy on Jack's face anymore if it tried. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen, or why not check out my Patreon page? There are even more videos over there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. Bye!